Have you ever asked yourself, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? I feel like I have an answer to that. And the answer has been staring us in the face all along. But from childhood, it gets knocked out of us because of the people we love that convince us otherwise, because the people we admire, they convince us otherwise, and we tend to stop thinking for ourselves, and we tend to lose confidence in our ability to formulate a perspective. And so we lose sight of what it obviously is. And the purpose of life, the meaning of life, obviously is up to you. And it's kind of like in the previous video when I said, I've come to the frightening conclusion that I'm the decisive element. I think it's a frightening conclusion to see that, wait, no, I don't want that. There's too much of a burden. I make the meaning? You're saying that the meaning of life is up to me? No, I'd rather be told what it is. I'd rather a book tell me. I'd rather a person tell me. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm saying what I feel it to be. But I mean, a person give me something very, very much more specific. A shoe cobbler can have a more meaningful life than a lawyer. A baker can have a more purpose-driven life than some teachers who are underpaid and have lost their passion due to the system. And what I'm not saying is, oftentimes people want to construe my position as I have something against financial security, I have something against job security, I have something against getting a degree or whatever they want to believe. I ain't got nothing against none of that. But what I'm saying is, you have to decide for yourself what's meaningful to you. Obviously, you know this. But the reason why we get swept up into pursuing, I should say, not working jobs. Not everyone can necessarily just has the good fortune of doing everything right to where they get the job that they love. I acknowledge that. But people get swept up in often pursuing certain careers, and not just careers, pursuing just certain lifestyles. Like, put jobs aside, just pursuing a particular kind of lifestyle with certain amenities, with certain surplus excess material things, because they think they're doing the right thing. They think that this is what life's about, that this proves their worth, this validates their existence. It proves I'm smart, it proves I'm pretty, it proves that I am impressive. We're competing with each other. And competition in the workplace, fine. Competition in school and stuff, okay. Competition in so many different realms, I get it. But when do you take a break from that? Or when do you step aside from that and take notice of what actually is fulfilling? And what I'm suggesting is that what's actually fulfilling is listening to what your most inner being is telling you. Damn the person who doesn't try to be this because the world told them, nah, you can't do that. Damn the person. That sucks. They were told they weren't pretty enough. They were told they weren't talented enough, skilled enough. And no, not everybody can be everything. And there's a reasonability that needs to be there. 100%. But we also have to acknowledge that there's something heinous about the presumption, the automaticity, the reflexive presumption, or the reflexive assertion that you can't do that, which a lot of families do to their children, which a lot of people do to their friends, which a lot of people in society just do to strangers. No, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. I know somebody once who I was talking with them, and I was saying that this one guy I know, so there's two people. I was telling person A about how person B was thinking about quitting their job and just becoming a baker. And person A was just like, why would they do that? Like, what? Because the person B has like a really good high status job, and person A was like, oh, that's like yucky. A baker? Okay. Are you kidding me? A life worth living is whatever you find that you are organically putting your heart and soul into. And I know everyone doesn't have that privilege. Everyone doesn't have such a good fortune to find something that they even want to put their heart and soul into. But I very much so admire and respect the simple person. I believe this gentleman was Scottish. There was this gentleman I once saw on YouTube a long time ago that did headstones for graves. And it was like an ASMR video. It was accidentally. He wasn't trying to do ASMR. But he made these stylistic tombstones. And they were just beautiful. And it was an art. And he put his everything into it. And I was like, what more do you want? Let's say that man quit his profession from some high paying job. Maybe let's say he was an investment banker or something. And then he started doing that. A lot of people would ridicule him. A lot of people would be looking at him sideways for it, especially here in America. But how can you when this man is fulfilled from doing this? And it's something that brings contentment to a lot of people. It brings peace to a lot of people. And it brings peace to himself. What the fuck is your problem? And I get angry about this because it is a crabs in the barrel kind of thing. It's not, if it was reason based, fine. Or if there was a kind of receptivity, fine. But I hate when I speak about these kinds of things, that people just, all they want to do is suggest that, well, jobs are important. I know they're important. Financial security is important. I know financial security is important. But psychological security is also important. How many more people have to kill themselves who have affluence? How many people need to incrementally destroy themselves or destroy the people in their families, destroy the people that are around them, despite having all the riches, despite having all the bitches? How many more people need to just show how dissatisfied they are to their core in a very profound way, despite having every material thing you could ever need in abundance of it, before we recognize that there's something in us as humans that craves something more intangible, that craves something more spiritual, something more profound. It's obviously obvious, but we just kind of give up. And we just kind of stop being open. We just kind of stop thinking. We're like, whatever. We get desensitized to thinking in shitty ways and feeling very shitty. In my early 20s, I remember when I first started this job, and when I was on break, this is like my early 20s, like literally maybe when I was 20, I would eat like a Twix bar and a bag of chips. And if somebody would have told me, and I'd always like be tired and sick and stuff, but if somebody would have come to tell me that, hey man, I know you really enjoy that Twix, and you're very used to that Twix and chips and stuff and all the crap you eat, but you could feel way better if you switched it up, you changed the diet, if you had more of a balance. I'd be like, yeah, I get, like, okay, I hear you. But I wouldn't, I would listen to that, even if I believed the person, were I to believe that person, it still is just so abstract, conceptual. It's like, I guess. And also, I suppose I partially wouldn't believe that person, because when you take that Twix and chips away from me, all of a sudden I'll go through withdrawal. I would go through withdrawal and I'd be like, they were wrong. I think because when we stray from our typical kinds of ways of thinking and our typical habits, because we're so used to it, and we go through a kind of psychological withdrawal or just straight up chemical withdrawal. We're like, nah, this is not right. It's not right for me. We just don't give it enough time. We just don't give it enough thought. We just don't have enough patience to see if we're wrong. You are the maker of meaning. And you can argue that, okay, so what if about the person whose meaning for them is to go around killing people? That is a spiritual experience for them, they claim. They just go around. Yeah. Let's say that is the case. Get them out of here. Because it's complicated. If that which brings you fulfillment brings other people pain, then it's unacceptable in a civilization. And then you could say, but what if the pain you bring isn't really pain? They just feel like it's pain and they feel like it just hurts, but it's not really an objective hurt. Well, that's when reasonability and being sensible, when that's a priority and we are committed to having healthy conversation, that's when a discussion can be had and we could hash that out. And if we disagree at the end of the day as to what's hurtful and what's not, then we have to find a way to be separate and still live in harmony. But that's when it gets really nuanced, and that's when it gets really subtle. But obviously there's things when there's damage that's purely objective. And so we can at least agree to that. And you might think it's like me just going from this to that. I have to cover everything because everybody has an excuse why they don't want to recognize the shit that I say. They always want to distort and warp what I'm talking about because they have they don't want to change their view. They don't want to be open. I'm not even saying change your view. They don't even want to harness an openness. And I see in every intellectual instance of all kinds of conversations. It's called straw manning. When you take somebody's position and you characterize it as this extremely weak thing. So you could just knock it down. You know, I just want to tell you a little secret about fulfillment and happiness. Have you ever felt love from somebody just saying that they love you? I want to tell you something. Although that person is important, and although they were a facilitator they were something that activated that feeling. When you feel joy and love and all these other things, I want you to remember something. Don't presume, there's no reason for us to believe that there's some kind of invisible stream that's coming out of somebody and going into you. There's no reason to believe that at your happiest with another person, that when someone pays you a compliment, and all of a sudden you're like, ooh, you feel great. That compliment is like, bing, and all of a sudden you feel good. It's self-generated. Even if it's involuntary, it's happening within you. What I'm telling you is that the greatest love you've ever felt, you can experience that within your own self, independent of anyone else. And then the suggestion is made. The straw man occurs. Oh, man. But it's nice to love people. You're saying don't love people. I'm not saying that. You son of a bitch. And I know I'm bitter because you don't know how many times I come across this. People just being defensive about such a thing. I'm not saying that people aren't important. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, I'm just pointing out something that's true. The greatest love you've ever felt came from within you. Someone just triggered it. And I'm saying that you can trigger it. I'm saying that there's ways to find fulfillment and happiness by just delving within your own self, by finding the stuff that means something to you. And it doesn't have to come from a person's approval of you. Now, I'm not persecuting healthy relationships. I am not criticizing healthy communication and connections. But what I'm saying is that oftentimes we compromise what we really need because we're addicted to people, because we think that we can't feel good except for them to be in our life, no matter how toxic it is. It feels too good when the bad's not there. It feels too good when they're just around. It feels too good when they say something positive, when they comfort you in some way. It feels too good, and you think that they are the sole reason for it. Now, when I'm talking about self-activation, self-fulfillment, self-love, it is hard to come by because it is a process, it's a journey, and then to me, one of the most arduous and difficult things is confronting everything that brings you pain, that's ever brought you pain. And it's going to come up in silence and in meditation. When you just sit in nothingness for long enough on a consistent enough basis, stuff comes up that will bring tears to your eyes. Things that you never want to think about surface, and it hurts so much. It's hard. It's hard as fuck. And it's not easy. But I think, but for me, I'll use me as an example. I have never felt more happy in my fucking life. I have never felt more fulfilled and stable in my fucking life. For so long, I needed people's validation. I needed people's approval. And I can't deny that no matter how much I don't need it, when someone does pay me a compliment, it's nice. And when someone pays me a critic, especially when it's an unfounded, unwarranted, unjustified criticism, a criticism that's based on nothing, again, as I said in another video, no information, just imagination, it hurts. Especially when it comes from loved ones. Indeed, it hurts. But I will say, at the end of the day, I take great solace in the fact that the greatest love of all is inside. I didn't even realize that. Of me. Y'all may end the video right there. Fuck that. That was too good. But I'm saying, I really believe that. Oh no, I'm not gonna end the video. Let's just say this. Meaning, you can create it. You can decide. I know that it's easier said than done. I know that it's not convenient for everybody. I know some people are just so fucking unlucky that where you work and where your circumstance is, your health, for whatever reason, stuff is just so bad that it's like, look, man, I can't do the things you say. I get it. I'm just saying. Work with what you got. Work with what you got. Work with who you got. But just know that it's possible. Just know that you don't have to let other people decide what's meaningful to you. Just know, listen to your heart and your soul, man. Whatever you're putting your heart and soul into, it's okay. Let that be to me. As long as it's not hurting people. If it's hurting you or hurting other people, you perhaps should rethink it. But if it's not, then the only issue is people's closed-mindedness. Then the only issue is the fact that people are addicted to having issues. That's my feeling. That's my sentiment. All right.